For the 24 hours on Friday, August 28th, we identified 133 new cases, and the provincial lab completed 10,220 tests. For Saturday, August 19th, we identified 184 new cases. On that day, 11,205 tests were completed. Finally, over the last 24 hours, we detected 109 new cases, and 12,244 tests were completed. Sadly, I must report 2 more deaths over the weekend, a male in his 80s in the Edmonton zone and a male in his 90s in the North zone. My sympathies go out to all who lost loved ones this past weekend, whether to COVID-19 or any other cause. Today, there are 1,370 active cases in the province. 44 people are in the hospital, including 8 in intensive care. In all, 12,293 Albertans have recovered. I also must report several outbreaks of note in the province. There is a new outbreak I am reporting today, linked to Calgary's Kadana-Meherut Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, with 57 confirmed cases of COVID-19. This outbreak was just identified in the last several days, and public health teams are still working to trace contacts and understand the full scope of this outbreak. As a precaution, as we did for previous faith-gathering outbreaks, we are asking anyone who attended this church in the last 2 weeks to get tested, stay home if they have any symptoms, and wait to hear from public health. Children who attended this church in the last 2 weeks should not go to school this week as a precaution. While we don't know yet if all who attended this church are close contacts, the case numbers we have seen to date are raising concerns that there could be more cases, and we want those in this community to have this information. As a precaution, we are making this request regarding children staying home from school to give our public health teams time to do the investigation and provide clarity to the congregation. It is critical, as always, that members of this church be supported and not targeted or stigmatized. An outbreak can occur anywhere, and those involved need our compassion in this difficult time. At workplaces, we were informed of an outbreak at an Edmonton Walmart supercenter with 8 active cases among staff. It is not clear at this time if these staff were exposed at work or if there is a common exposure outside of the workplace. The Lilydale chicken plant in Calgary has 24 cases, 3 of which are recovered, and the Cargill Case Ready plant has 1 active case and 6 recovered cases. The Harmony Meat plant has 66 active cases and 3 recovered cases. I want to emphasize that management and staff involved in all of the outbreaks are working closely with public health to prevent the spread. School is starting this week in many places across the province, and the success of schools reopening depends on all of us. As teachers welcome students back to classrooms today or prepare for the return of students this week or next, I would like to clarify Order 33/2020 that was issued over the weekend. I am very sorry for the anxiety and confusion that this order has sparked. This timing was not meant to hide information. Ironically, it was meant to be transparent. The intent was to ensure school authorities knew about the order, which codifies the guidance that has been online for weeks before the order came into effect today. I understand the concerns, especially as we move forward quickly and the need to ensure that Albertans have accurate information. I have committed going forward to a goal of only posting new orders Monday through Thursday, and whenever a new order is posted, I will share this information online via social media. My team and I continue to work closely with school authorities to provide accurate information and evidence to support the back-to-school experience for parents, teachers, students, and administrators. I must be clear that the order that was issued this weekend does not change our policy or my advice. Reports that indicate otherwise are not accurate. No policy has changed since mandatory masking was announced on August 4th. As a part of a number of new school safety measures to combat COVID-19, mask use for grade 4 to 12 students and all school staff is now mandatory. This applies to staff and teachers in all settings outside seated classroom instruction where physical distancing of 2 meters cannot be maintained. Students will be required to wear masks in all shared and common areas, including hallways and on school buses. I also want to clarify the order as it relates to physical distancing between students inside the classroom. Physical distancing of 2 meter spacing whenever possible is a useful public health measure to help prevent the spread of disease. Increasing the space between persons decreases the risk of transmission. In schools, with respect to implementing the masking policy, we recognize that there could be impacts on communication and learning, and so in our policy announced in early August and in our school guidance online, we have always stated that masking is not required when the following is met. Specifically, where 2 meters is not possible between desks, the greatest possible spacing is in place, and if 2 meters cannot be arranged between desks or tables, students should be arranged so they are not facing each other. For example, they should be arranged in rows rather than in small groups of 4 or a semicircle. That way, if a student coughs or sneezes, they are not likely to cough or sneeze directly on the face of another student. Non-medical masks are not required while students are seated in the classroom during instruction if following the physical distancing guidance that I have just articulated. This has been part of our school guidance for several weeks. If close contact between students and teachers or staff is occurring as a result of non-seated classroom activity, in this case, non-medical masks should be used for the duration of the activity. The intention is to allow students a break from mask wearing in the classroom when they are seated and not facing each other, and desks are spaced as widely apart as possible. This is not new. The bulk of the cases and the trends that we're seeing are transmission that's happening in places that wouldn't necessarily be impacted by a municipal mask mandate. We're seeing the majority of our new cases in Edmonton and Calgary, which of course already have mask mandates. And I think what is underlined for me, again, in some of the trends that we're seeing is, and I hear this from many different sources, that people are tired of living with COVID. They're tired of living with restrictions. They want to get on with their life. That is completely understandable. Unfortunately, we don't have the option of ignoring COVID. And so I don't know that a mask mandate in other municipalities would solve our current problems. I think what we need to do is look at the trends once we've had a chance to look at the cases that were reported on the 3 days over the weekend and see what kinds of exposures are linked to those cases. That may help us understand better what, if anything, we need to change.